What's going on, everybody? It's Evan Hale. Welcome to Call Glass. Today we got a little special video today. I went to the Raleigh sectionals for the first round of the NCAA tournament. So I got to see Duke play. They played Mount St. Mary. Got to see UConn play Oklahoma, Florida play Norfolk State, and then I got to see Mississippi State and Baylor play. And in that game, I got to see a handful of draft prospects. Let's see. I actually didn't count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 prospects. So in that, I thought it'd be fun to just talk about, all the guys I saw. And I mean, I'm not a huge college basketball guy. I'm trying to get into it more this year. I tried to get into it more this year, but it's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, I'm a college football guy. I'm a college baseball guy and an NBA guy for professional sports as well as the NFL. But you guys know me as an NBA guy. But college basketball, there's just so many teams. It's really hard to go full in depth into it. So I watch a lot of people talk about prospects, and a lot of my opinions are opinions on other people's opinions. Plus the game, I do watch highlights and I do watch game tape of the guys I'm interested in, but I don't I'm not watching every game. So admittedly, I'm not an expert on these guys. So I'm going to give my opinion on these guys based on the game that I got to watch them play. And we'll talk about that, based on what I knew going into the game, what I've seen. I've watched a lot of the tapes on a lot of these guys before in the past, at least like the lottery projected guys and like the first round guys. So talk about these guys and what I thought, and just gonna get into it. So we're gonna start like from the bottom up. So I'm going to start with the guy, second round picks, and then the guys who impressed me and didn't impress me. We'll go from there. So the first guy I'm going to talk about is, I think, Alex Condon or Condon. I don't know. He is forward, like power forward for Florida. He is like the 40th projected overall pick right now on the what is it? The oh my gosh. Tankathon. Oh my gosh, I can't remember Tankathon's name on their mock. So I'm doing it off Tankathon's mock because everybody uses them for the lottery, like the lottery simulations and everything. So I thought they'd be a good. Everyone's already on the website anyways. You might as well use their mock. So I looked at other mocks and he's about at 40 on these as well. So I'm just gonna use their numbers for this. But he had 12 points. He had 5 boards. He had 3 assists and 2 blocks. Decent stat line. He was the guy who was projected highest for Florida, so I was kind of giving him the most looks. And admittedly, he didn't impress me as much as I hoped he would. He isn't the guy I assumed had the the highest projection on that game for drafts. Which it's not. Some people have off games, and that's totally fine. But he played decent defense, but he also was significantly larger than everybody else in the opposing team. So at that point, how much of it was the defensive size and how much of it was not. I mean, he just didn't wow me. He didn't have a lot of offensive gravity. Honestly, Florida in the second half as a whole didn't look very good against Norfolk State. They had a big lead, but I mean, Norfolk State kind of fought back in that second half, and they made Florida look beatable. I was saying, I was kind of low on Florida after that game, and then they go into the UConn game and they almost lose to UConn. So, we'll see how that goes going forward. We're not talking about the tournament, but he just didn't impact. He didn't have an impact like I thought he would watching the game, and that could just be the one game. Like like I said to start, I'm not a big college basketball guy. These are my. I didn't watch any tape on this guy before. So this is my initial impression of him. I watched Florida play a couple times, just in big games, but I wasn't, usually had usually listen to like a podcast, something when I'm watching college basketball. So I didn't have the sound on. I'm just watching to watch, and I don't remember him having a crazy game before, but anyways, he just did not have the impact I thought he would. Looking at his mock and everything. The guy who did surprise me for the team, however, the lowest guy projected that I got to watch play on the from the Tankathon mock, Walter Clayton Jr. Oh man, he's a bucket. He's just a shifty guard. He's a little undersized, But man, I feel like he could not miss. He just some of the most fun I've had watching a guy play in person. Just couldn't miss, made guys look silly. I mean, he had 23 points. He had 5 boards and 2 assists. I mean, he was crashing the glass as a guard, and he's the reason they dominated that game. I mean, admittedly, I think everybody else in Florida kind of underwhelmed, but he just different animal. He was out there just hooping. I mean, he just he was having fun. He was playing well. I don't know because of his. I mean, let me see exactly how tall he is, because he felt like he was pretty small. I should have got this up before, but how tall is he? He's 6'3". He's listed 6'3". I thought he looked a little short on the court, but that could just be where I was sitting in my angle from him. But he's a guy I could see, being a second round guy. I mean, who could, have some kind of, impact. Maybe not, be a 2-way guy, be a guy who's come off the bench. I mean, it's hard to tell with anybody. I mean, Jokic was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial famously, so I can't say, this guy's ceiling is this, especially for these lower guys, because anything can happen. I mean, he was a great scorer. He played good on defense. I mean, they were playing a 16 seed, so you have to take that with a grain of salt and for everything. That's why I think I was so disappointed with Alex Condon, was because he didn't look that good playing a 16 seed. But yeah, no. So I'm definitely a Walter Clayton fan after that game, and he had 23 again against UConn, and I watched him a lot closer that game, and he just a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to watch play, and he got a fan out of me, so that's pretty cool. Next second round guy we're going to talk about, because it goes the 2 Florida guys, and then there's Alex Karaban from UConn, and then there's 3 Duke guys. So we're just going to hit Alex Karaban next, and go ahead and hit him. So he had 13 points and 7 boards. He drew a lot of attention on the offensive side of the ball, which is something I expected more from Liam McNeely. We'll talk about him later and why I think he didn't have as much offensive pull. But Alex Karaban, he just felt like, a veteran out there. He made a lot of good plays, made a lot of passes to a lot of passes. He directed a lot of offense. I knew about him from the last, the championship teams and everything. I knew he was going pro, and then he pulled out of the draft, tried to up his draft stock. I think his draft stock got hurt this last year. I talked to a couple UConn fans. I was sitting kind of by some UConn fans for that section, and they were talking about him and how he probably should have just went pro last year and didn't really benefit from staying. But I thought he played pretty well. He, a lot just you felt like the defense was focusing in on him. At least most of the defense was. I'll get into more of that later on why they were able to focus on him rather than Liam McNeely. I'm not trying to spend too much time on these second round guys, just because the reason I started with these 3 guys is because I have the least to say about them. I think they like Walter Clayton was just a straight bucket. I mean, he was just fun to watch. He's playing a 16 seed. Alex Karaban, he had a pretty decent game. He's definitely the reason they won their game. I mean, it was an all around game for UConn, not an all around game from Oklahoma. So that's why they won their game. But not as much to say about these guys. I'm going to get into the Duke guys now. Start off with Sion James. He was kind of underwhelming. I think he was mostly underwhelming just because he was playing with the other 4 starters on Duke, and just if anybody's not going to shine as bright, it's going to be him, just because everybody else, demanded that, especially with Tyrese Proctor having a good game. We'll get to him in a minute. But he only had 2 points, 2 boards, 3 assists. He definitely underwhelming. I mean, he's projected 50th overall pick. He didn't play very well, especially against a 16 seed. He thought he might have played a little better, but I guess they didn't play the starters as much as they could have, and pulling him early, but when all the other guys are playing better, he didn't play enough for me to have an opinion. He didn't shoot a lot of shots. I mean, he was just kind of there, while Isaiah Evans was there, and he's projected, he's projected 41st on Techathon. I've seen him in first round mocks as well from other mocks. So he's the guy I was interested in going into, but he shot 0 for 5 from 3. And I can see what his selling point is. He's got a positional size. He plays pretty well on defense. He's usually a great shooter. But I sat with a lot of UConn fans during the second section. The first section I sat around a lot of Duke fans because it was in Raleigh and Duke was playing. But a lot of the Duke fans were saying he could benefit from coming back for another year. So it depends on. From what I've heard, a lot of people were saying if he doesn't have a good tournament, he should maybe consider staying back another year, and being that guy on Duke could really benefit him because all the other guys around him are going to go pro this year. And that could really benefit him, but he shot very poorly. He had 4 points against a 16 seed as a 6-man. So he was playing with the starters at times. I feel like they took Con Kneppel off a little bit early and let him play with the starters, but he had a lot of moments where he was the guy on the court. He just did not produce like you would hope he would, especially against a 16 seed. Duke did dominate. They won by like 50. So I guess you can only say so much about the overall team performance, but definitely underwhelmed by him. Guy I'm not underwhelmed by, Tyrese Proctor. He was incredible. He had an efficient 19 points, went 6 from 8 from 3. He couldn't miss. He started off the game so hot, he just could not miss. And you got a lot of guys in that Duke starting lineup who have a lot of offensive gravity to them. And it felt like he was the guy at times pulling away from Cooper Flagg instead of you would think the other way around, which made the offense flow really well. They ran him and Cooper Flagg opposite at times too, but when they were on the floor together, felt like he might have been pulling away from Cooper just because he was having such a hot game. But he just was, I guess it's Zion James. His star could not shine as bright as some of the other guys on the court. Tyrese Proctor was glowing. He was elite. He would just could not miss. Facilitated well. He had 5 assists. And that is a team that moves the ball a lot. So to have 5 assists for that team is saying something, being that you are all moving the ball constantly. I think he led all scorers in that game, and you felt it. He had some of the biggest pop from plays just because he was killing it. He was torching it. I think he helped his draft stock. He was projected, I think, the 55th pick. So, most of the way down the second round. I could see him as an early second round guy just off of this. So I'm excited to see where he goes. I think he could be a guy, a spark plug off the bench. Him and Walter Clayton Jr. very similar. I think he's a little more polished than Walter Clayton Jr., but both of them, I think, in the right scheme with the right coaches, they could be a guy like a 6-man. I'm a Hornets fan. This is mostly people on here watching now are Hornets guys. Both of them give me a little bit of Trey Mann vibes. Both of them, the way that they score the ball. Tyrese Proctor, I don't know how tall he is either. Maybe check that real fast too. I have a lot of things saved, but I didn't think about heights until I started recording this. Tyrese Proctor. I think he's taller, so yeah, he's 6'6". But I just more was saying like a spark plug guy off a bench. How Trey Mann was, but he's definitely got more positional size. So he's also an exciting guy. Let's see. And that's your first round guy. So I guess I didn't put them in order. I would probably say Isaiah Evans, if he stays, will probably still be a higher second round guy just because of he had a good year. You don't want to base all of your rankings off of a couple tournament games. Tyrese Proctor, I can imagine this could help his draft stock a lot. I don't really know where these guys end up. I don't know how many of these guys stay. I don't know how many of these guys go, but those are your second round guys. So my first round guys, I just kind of order them based on how much fun I had watching them play, if that makes any sense. And how excited I am to watch them. So my first guy is Liam McNeely. I was talking about how Alex Caravan had a lot more offensive gravity. And it's because Liam McNeely did not play very well. He shot 2 for 13 from the field. He had 8 points, mostly off of free throws. He had 6 boards. So I was kind of bummed, just disappointed watching him play. So like I said, I tried to watch some more college ball, and I only seen his highlights, and I heard his name a lot, and I knew who he was, and I was excited to watch him play. And he just, was not what I was hoping he was going to be. I knew that he was kind of like a borderline lottery guy, and a lot of people were saying that he had to have a good tournament to jump, and he just, at least that game, he did not play very well. And I mean, he could be a guy that just had a bad game, and at the end of it, like, gets taken 17th or 18th. He's projected 17th in the Tankathon mock, but go to a good team, a good situation, kind of like how you've seen like Dalton Connect go, and guys like that, Jaime Jaquez, kind of going just after the lottery. Jared McCain is another guy you can think of going to good situations and benefiting from that, having guys around you who can make you play better. I mean, he's a guy. I mean, I've seen a lot of film on him, a lot of highlights on him, and he's a guy who could do something pretty decent in the league. You just got to end up in a good situation. He might benefit from not having played that well and falling a little further. So time will tell on him. I was a little bummed for my only time seeing him play, him only having 8 points, but I'm excited for the future. Con Knepel's the next guy. Con only had 6 points against 16 seed, which is, I gave a lot of Isaiah Evans a hard time for that, but Con mostly played with the starters. And he didn't shoot us that well, and we know he can shoot well. Like, that's his selling point. He's a really, really good shooter. But the movement he had on the offensive side of the ball, you could really feel like he was influencing the way the offense moved and the way the defense moved around the offense. So he still had pull even if he wasn't making a shot, at least early on. They kind of left him a little more open as the game went on because he wasn't making a shots, and they were also, at that point, they were pretty beat. But he played the least amount of minutes with the starters. I think they tried to give Isaiah Evans a little more run in the second half. But he definitely contributed more than what the box score showed for him. You could feel like, he was always thinking a step or two ahead of the defense or the offense for that matter. And the impact that he had, was more not with the ball in his hands. And, Tyrese Proctor, and we'll talk about Cooper Flag as well, they both had great games. So him playing mostly with those guys on the court, I don't blame him as much for not having as good of a game. And I think that he is going to be okay at the next level, especially with how he's played all year. I think he's like a complementary piece to an offense, and he will be that at the next level as well. The next guy I'm going to go into is a guy, I'm going to say, other than Cooper Flag, I was the most excited to watch going in. It's Jeremiah Fears at Oklahoma. Dude is just exciting, man. He has such awesome highlights. He's a bucket. He makes things happen, and I will mostly watch his highlights and heard people rave about him and said, don't watch a lot of college basketball. Oklahoma is not a team that I'm, ever watch if I am watching. But man, he did not disappoint. He had this moment like early in the first half, drives to the basket, this crazy spin move, easy layup. I mean, it was beautiful. He's so shifty. He's so good with the ball in his hands. He had 4 assists, but man, the reason the Oklahoma lost is because the rest of the team did not perform well. Jeremiah Fears should have had 10 assists this game, and they should have won the game, but his team did not score very well. And that's, if you go back and you watch this game, you'll be like, wow, how did that guy not score that? How did that guy not score that? Just easy dump passes where he's, pulling defense towards them, got a guy open, they're missing their shots. And, he just was super, super fun to watch on offense. And he was the engine to their offense, and he was doing everything, and the team just was not, firing on all cylinders to help him succeed on that. And not only was he the offense, but he was also regularly switched on to Liam McNeely. And I think he's a big reason why Liam McNeely had a poor game. He played great defense on him, and I didn't know that going in. Highlights are mostly offensive highlights, for most guys. And he's a very heavy offensive player, at least I thought he was going in. But man, he was great on defense. He locked up. He had 2 steals. He was in the passing lanes. He had an impact on both sides of the ball, and that's something I didn't expect going in. And he also played off ball a lot more than I thought he was. I kind of saw him from what I'd seen him the highlight wise as a like a ball dominant guy, but he was off the ball a lot. And I think that'll benefit him at the next level, that he can play off ball and play with the ball in his hands. But I could see this guy. I could see him. He's mocked at the 10th pick right now. I could see, us in 3 years being like, why were 9 other guys picked ahead of this guy? And that's exciting. I'm excited to watch him play at the next level. I'm excited to see where he ends up. I hope he goes to a situation that truly benefits him, and he can truly he can be himself in the flow of an offense. So that's what I'm excited about. Yeah. Next guy, he's the guy who jumped the most on my personal big board, just having only seen highlights of him and stuff. It's Kaman Maluach. Dude, he's huge. I think he's listed at 7'2". He's got to be at least 7'3". And he's just a big, bulky, massive human being. Just huge. I've seen Wemby play in person. I've seen a lot of big guys play in person. I've seen, Embiid, Jokic. I've seen a lot of big men play in person. He's got to be one of the biggest big men I've ever seen in my life. And he's a more of a raw prospect, I do know that. But, he had 11 points. He had 5 boards. He was with the flow of Duke's offense. He even hit a three-pointer. He felt comfortable on offense. And I know he's got to, work on things. And he is a raw prospect. He was playing a 16 seed, and I am aware of that. But I think if you get him in the right situation, with the right coach, with good guards around him to facilitate him, he's an incredible shot blocker. He didn't have a single block, though, which I'm shocked at. I had to go double check 2 box scores to make sure, look at the stats, because I think it was just the fact that he looked so scary. I don't think anybody drove on him. He influenced so many shots without ever having people shoot the ball, if that makes any sense. You saw guys start to go to the basket and then be like, nope, I don't want to do that. Back out. And it was, I'm shocked he didn't have a block, because he looked like, I think he had a couple steals, and those were kind of on driving to the basket, people trying to pass out of shots. But man, he just huge. Huge is all you can say. And he imposes himself on defense, and I think he can have a big impact on winning basketball if he goes the right situation. Derek Lively was not a raw prospect, but Derek Lively went to a good situation and immediately blossomed. That could be Kaman Maluach. He may need a little bit more, because he is a lot more raw than a Derek Lively was. But that's a good, if he were to go to a team like that, he could really benefit from, having a good guard around him, who can facilitate for him. And, like I said, good coaching, good systems. He could go to a situation and not be, end up in a good spot, but it really depends on where he lands. I think he will be a good center regardless. It just depends on where he ends up to see how much time it will take for him to do that. Sorry, my cat decided to join us. Not right now, Rusty. Hey. So that's everybody outside of the top 5. Now we got the two heavy hitters, the 2 guys. I was excited for Jeremiah Fears, but the 2 guys, I was most excited to watch Jeremiah Fears, as a guy who doesn't know much about him. But when it comes to these next 2 guys, I was very, very hyped to watch them play. We're going to start with the guy who's projected to go between picks 2 and 4, VJ Edgecombe, man. VJ Edgecombe, he didn't score very well to the end of the game. It was a close game. It was 75-72, and he really was the guy who, scored at the end to put it away. But I'm just excited to see him play at the next level. He only had 14 points. He had 5 boards, but that wasn't what, it's 5 boards a little bit, but that's not why I'm interested in him. That's not his selling point. Dude isn't the Energizer Bunny. He's the Energizer Bunny on both sides of the ball every time he's on the court. He is, every time there's a loose ball, he's diving on the floor. He's crashing on shots, influencing, jumping up, tapping out rebounds. He crashes. He works harder than everybody else on the floor when he's playing. He's in the passing lanes. I think he had a steal, but he had 2 steals, but those aren't. He didn't even steal balls on the passing lane. He just tipped the balls, but it made it so you thought about it the next time. You're like, oh, I don't want to make that pass because he's there. And it slowed up the offense for Mississippi State. He was regularly on the guy, whoever was scoring the most for them. He was on guards. He was on forwards. Didn't matter. They were able to switch on defense a lot more because of his versatility. He just was wherever you needed anybody to be. He was there. He's a guy who you want on your basketball team. He's a guy who's in everything. He's mucking up the water. He's making it hard for everybody to do everything. And he's just, if there's a loose ball, you're going to get it if he's on the court. He also wasn't just doing that. He is a guy who was, they used him a lot as a decoy this game. He was in the corner a lot, which I was a little bummed because I wanted to see him with the ball in his hand more. But they always were focused on him. And it allowed their offense to flow more. It was kind of like a 4-on-4 and maybe like a 4-on-3.5 because they always had a guy kind of looking at him. And it allowed their Baylor's offense to really flow without him, at least in the first half. And but he was always just on the floor pointing like, hey, go here, directing traffic. He's not moving me. He's moving everybody else. He's making sure that, he knows what their coach wants them to do, and he's making sure it gets done on the court. And that's not even when he's off the court, he's doing it as well. If he's on the bench, there was a couple times where he was on the bench. It was an important moment in the game, and he's not playing. Maybe the shot clock's running out, or, times when defenses need to step up. He's on his feet on the bench, yelling, pointing for where guys to be at. And that's something you don't get to see very often, That's not something you see when you're watching highlights or see when you're watching, people play games. He was the smartest guy on the court. That's all you can say. And some guys you have are the smartest guys on the court, and they score a lot and they do stuff. But it's different when you have a guy who's the smartest guy on the court who also is going to out hustle everybody. He's going to outrun everybody. He's also going to out jump you. He's a freak athlete. He jumped. He missed this dunk during the game, and he was dunking the ball so hard that it went off the back rim, and it went out of the backcourt, and it got picked up at the free throw line on the other side of the court. That's how hard he was dunking this ball off of he dribbled the ball kind of slow, and then he just explodes towards the basket, jumps up like crazy. He's way above the rim. He throws it off the backboard and shoots back that far. I mean, he is a freak athlete. I mean, I'm trying to be more organized talking about him, but he does so much. He's so much fun to watch, and just, I don't know. He's a guy. I'm a Hornets fan. If we don't get the first overall pick, I want him on my team. He's maybe a little undersized. I thought he was going to be a little taller, but he plays huge, and he plays hard, and he plays fast. And like I said, I'm sorry I'm being a little bit, unorganized here. I have this little script bubble for him, but I just keep veering off it because I haven't seen a guy play like him before in person. And that's something I'm very excited about to watch at the next level. He could be somebody who, maybe not like a all-star guy because he doesn't score as many points, but he will be a guy who will compete to be an all defensive level player. He will compete to be an all-star, I imagine, because even though he only scored 14 points, I know he can score more points when he's at the next level, and he's not the primary focus on defense. He will be able to score buckets. I mean, he's averaged like 35% from three, which is something that is a surprise for him. He wasn't a very good shooter going into this year, but shot very well this year for what he had been doing. And he's something I'm very excited to watch play basketball, at the next level. And I'm hoping if the Hornets don't win the lottery and get this next guy, we end up with him on our team. But here's this last guy. It's Cooper Flagg. I said his name much already. Forward from Duke. I mean, everybody's talked about Cooper Flagg. What is there to say that already hasn't been said about him? He scored all three levels. He's a great ball handler at 6'10". I'm pretty sure he's 6'10". Malawach is a huge guy. And he's not as tall as Malawach, don't get me wrong, but he didn't look small next to Malawach like everybody else did. And he has this ridiculous offensive gravity. I talked about Tyrese Proctor having offensive gravity, and he was on a heater, so it was a little different. But when Tyrese Proctor didn't have the ball in his hand, everybody was staring at Cooper Flagg on defense. He had just – I want to start with he had just had a pretty bad ankle sprain like a week before this. And like I was worried he wasn't going to play this game, and I was worried that if he did play, he wasn't going to contribute like you thought he could because they were playing a 16 seed. And why try that hard when you know the rest of the team around you? I mean, I've named 5 other NBA guys on this roster, but man, that is not his mindset. Cooper Flagg has like a killer mentality. Like just a killer mentality. He score all 3 levels, has crazy offensive gravity, and that's the most important part is offense isn't his selling point. Like, yeah, he's great at offense, but he's a defensive guy, a defensive prospect. I mean, I went with my fiance, and I told her, I'm like, I bet you a single person smaller than Cooper Flagg is not scoring him all day, and that was the case. There was one bucket scored on Cooper Flagg, and it was the one guy who was taller than him on Mount St. Mary, and it was a tough bucket. Like, it was a tough bucket. Cooper Flagg played great defense without fouling him. But he only had 2 blocks. But I mean, it felt like he's great at influencing other shots without fouling, without blocking. I mean, just the way he goes to the verticality rule, where he goes straight up and just gets in your face, makes it hard for you, and you just break it off the rim or off the glass, and influencing a shot without blocking it or getting a foul call on him. I mean, he was an impressive guy to watch play basketball. I mean, he's just the real deal. That's all you can say. Everybody's talked about him. Everybody's seen. If you're watching this, you've probably seen more tape on Cooper Flagg than anybody else. The way I can explain him, he's kind of like a mix of like Evan Mobley and like Grant Hill, like a little bit of like AK-47. If you remember him from his prime, he's great on the ball defender, but an even better off the ball defender, right? Like, just he is able to rotate, block shots, getting in the passing lanes, get in the way of people. I mean, just and influence the other team's defense, other team's offense, to not be able to run what they want to run. And he's also just incredibly smart on the floor. They're going to run plays. He's calling them out before, like a middle linebacker, coaching up a defense before a play. I mean, as a guy who is a big Panthers fan, he reminded me of Luke Kuechly a little bit on defense, just recognizing plays before they developed, calling things out, pointing things out. He was also coaching the offense like crazy, very similar to VJ Edgecombe in the fact on the bench, he's pointing defense and where to go. I mean, his impact is incredible. He great passer too, underrated passer. There's not much more you can say about the guy. If you're watching this video, you know about Cooper Flagg. You know how great he is. I mean, he's going number 1 for a reason. He's the reason everybody is tanking this year. I mean, he will become one of the best players on any team who drafts him. And that's I'm trying to get the words just because he's so good. It's hard to describe. I don't know. Like, his weight, like the weight he has on defense and on offense, is something that will translate to the next level. He is going to be the reason that teams win. He wants to win. He fights hard to win. He will change a culture. If your team doesn't win right now, he's going to make sure they win in the future. Not only on his play, but on holding other people accountable, and just the way that you see him on timeouts, when he's on the bench, he's asking his team to play like their lives depend on it. And he's somebody who's going to be very fun to watch in the next level. He's not just fun, he's going to be dominant at the next level. And whoever wins the lottery this year, congratulations, because you're going to get somebody who is just incredible. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I didn't realize I was going to go on for half an hour on this. The NBA draft is something that is very exciting, especially when you're a team of like the Hornets, like me, or your team's in the lottery. A lot of these guys, I mean, I was negative on some of the guys. I still think all of these guys have a shot at being good in the NBA. I would just like I said, I'm giving my impressions of them based on one game that I got to see them play. I mean, you're playing. Most of these guys are, the best player on a team who's in the tournament. I mean, that's impressive to be that you are great at basketball if you are at this level. And I'm really wishing nothing but the best for these guys. I mean, heck, it's cool for me if they all do good because I'm like, yeah, I remember I saw them before they made it pro. But thank you so much for watching. Please just enjoy basketball. Try to stay positive in the NBA landscape. It's hard to unline sometimes. I hope your team, if they're still in the tournament, hope they make a run on it and they keep it going. Hope if you're cheering for a team, I hope they win. That's all I can say. And I hope your team does well in the lottery. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a great one.